Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson. Have you ever gotten into something where you're really excited and you get going on the momentum of this brilliant new idea, and then suddenly you just stop and you don't want to do it and it becomes a chore, and then you start to feel guilty about this chore because you're not doing it anymore, and you said you were going to do it and you were so excited about doing it, but now you just don't want to do it? Has that happened to you? Is that something that you've gone through before? How have you made your way through this, and did you end up continuing and finishing what you initially set out to do, or did you just let it go and move on? That's what we're going to talk about today. That's what we're going to explore, and I'm going to share some of my methods through which that I've used to work through this and approach this from a philosophical perspective and personal growth perspective, because sometimes those things you really want and get excited about are worth following through on, and they can make a huge change in your life. Like doing this YouTube video series, I just started it, got excited, and I've been keeping it going, but it's been ups and downs. But there's other projects that I've started and just let go and they've died, and that's fine. And I've worked through that. And so that's the kind of area and topic that we're going to discuss today. Before I get started, I'd love for you to like and subscribe this video. It really helps support me get my content out there. And if you're into personal growth topics that are also trans inclusive, you're more than welcome to join and to become a part of my community here. So without further ado, let's dive in. So I'll just start this with a personal story. I have been thinking about, where do I start with this new era of my video content? Like, where do I go for this next step of Ashley Adamson and what she's creating online? Because historically, I've been creating trans videos, but now I'm saying, you know, fuck it, let's do other stuff, because I'm way more interested in covering a much larger range of things. And so that's led me to all sorts of ideas of how I could do editing and how I could do this topic and that topic and write this and write that and have a script and all of these things that got me very excited. But then I wake up and I go, you know, today I just don't feel like it. Maybe I'll feel like it tomorrow. And then the next day I go, yeah, I still don't feel like doing it. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow. Like, has this happened to you? And like, what do you do when you get into these situations, right? Like, this is kind of the struggle and the thing that I'm talking about today and really focusing on and really wanting to dial in for you and myself. So today I'm making a video, obviously, as you can see, and I initially didn't set out to make a video. It just kind of organically became a part of my process in my day. And what I've found that has worked for me today has been to recognize that I created a lot of pressure on me to do a certain thing and a lot of expectations of how it could happen and how it should happen. And I think this set of expectations around our excitement and this idea that we can build towards something can really kind of create this tension and kind of like what I would just call a monster in your experience, because it's become so much more than what it initially was. When you approach something with play, it creates this dynamic of discovery and low stakes behavior where you can just kind of flow and work with something that allows you to grow and expand and approach it from a non-stressful enjoyment perspective, right? Like this idea of play, like how powerful it can be in your own experience. And we know that scientifically, like when you approach things from a play perspective, there's a lot of learning that occurs. So why don't we always approach things from play? Like, why don't you always approach things from play? I say that as if you should, but sometimes it doesn't work that way, right? But like, kind of like de-escalating this idea of whatever you're excited about and the thing that you're working towards, and taking it back into a place of, well, you know what, I'm just gonna put low stakes on this, and I may get to it or I may not get to it. Maybe I can find some space in my day to do it. That might help you make it a little easier to get towards doing that thing that you've wanted to do, but you feel like is a little too high. I've got this a lot when I was writing my book, and it kind of like became this really, really big monster because I had started to stack a lot of emotional release and dopamine and reward off of the completion of it, but then I'm like in the process of trying to complete it. And I noticed this with a lot of people, and maybe you get this yourself. You start to want to do it just right. I hear a lot of times people want to start YouTube channels and they say, well, I want to start a YouTube channel, but I don't want to start it and do it wrong. I want to do it when I have this equipment and I have a brand and I have a logo and I have this and I have that. I want to do it just perfectly. And this idea of like making it just perfect and just right can really stifle you because it creates so many barriers to entry for you to just get started. And this is a thing with learning, and I've noticed this with my work and mental momentum. The more you do something, the more it becomes normal. And then once you've normalized that, the novelty wears off. It becomes a lot easier to do it because it's seeped into your subconscious patterns. And now you can stack new things on top of that. So when I started my YouTube series, I was recording off of like my phone camera, and that was like enough for me just to like figure out how to record it, put it on, like upload it to YouTube, and then like put in like, how do you make a thumbnail? How do you do SEO? How do you write a description? How do you even build an audience? Like there's so many more things that come with that. And I wasn't in a place where I could do lighting, get a good camera, research on what to do with the camera, et cetera, et cetera. So like this, it kind of goes in tune with de-escalation. It's like, are you able to do something where it's good enough rather than perfect? And this dichotomy that we kind of stick to, where it's like, it has to be just right, is oftentimes the biggest monster that you're never really gonna beat, unfortunately. Because the mind and our imagination could always play things up to something better than what we're actually able to achieve. Do you know what I mean? And that's not to say that we can't achieve perfect, but the pursuit of perfection is what is going to be impossible to achieve. Because when you achieve perfect, you're going to say, well, it's not as perfect as it could be. I can make it more perfect. And that's the relentless cycle that isn't really worth spinning your wheels on. Just get it out there, do the thing. And this is the same approach that we take in software design and product design. When we build the product, we're just trying to get something that meets the value criteria of the customer and hits them with, let's say, 80% of the value that they're trying to achieve. If you can capture 80% of the value of what someone is trying to achieve, this is now in product design, then you're making huge strides, because before it was zero, right? But the next iteration and the next iteration raises the bar of what you achieved with 80%, 85, 90%, etc. And that's the same with how you're thinking about doing your projects or whatever you're trying to do. Just do it, get to 80%, be okay with that, and know that you can iterate and build. That's the product mentality, and I think that mentality has been standardized in the workplace as an efficient way of accomplishing and doing. So hopefully that helps you as well. The last one I'll go to is like actually just calling it quits, which is like such a dumb thing to say, because isn't this about like, you know, making it happen? But like sometimes you actually just have to quit, and you have to be willing to just say, hey, you know, that was a fail and whatever, I'll just move on. Sometimes the fear of failure is going to stop you from even starting, right? Like, have you ever been afraid of doing it wrong or getting called out for doing it wrong, or what other people are going to think because you're doing it not as well as you think you really could be? This like sense of your ego gets wrapped up in what you create, and it's really important to understand how to detangle yourself from your creation, because your creation is just a moment in time of when you created it. I get this all the time with my design work, but you have to like, I've learned to let go of what you create, so that way this sense of failure is more like an opportunity for learning. And once again, this is a startup technique, like opportunities for failing fast, so you can learn from that and then move on. And that's the same kind of idea here, is allow yourself to fail and allow yourself to just kind of like notch it up as a failure. Because when you give yourself the freedom to say, you know what, that was a failure, that fucking sucked, then you de-escalate the pain, the ego burden, and then you can move on and like create something better, because you now have really important lessons of the things that you did wrong. one of my close friends who like does things really well. I asked him like, how did you learn all of this stuff? And he's like, well, I've been doing real estate for 30 years and I've done all of these things wrong, so I've learned how to do them right. And that's exactly what the opportunity for failure is. Hopefully by watching this video and digesting this content though, I've shared with you some of the things that I've learned over the thousands of hours of work. And that's going to enable you to shorten the amount of time to your own personal success. So if you like this video, please give a like, subscribe, share this with a friend that you think could really like use this video to their advantage. And please, if you want to support me financially, I would love for you to join my memberships on my YouTube. I'll see you in another episode soon. I'm Ashley Adamson. Bye.